Bien, señores, para el mundo empresarial una de las grandes preocupaciones es el manejo de riesgos al interior de la organización. Tenemos en esta oportunidad al director senior de G4S, una empresa global de seguridad, uno de los más grandes empleadores del mundo. Está con nosotros Bruce Wimmer, más conocido como Doctor Riesgo o Dr. Risk, y con él vamos a conversar sobre los principales aspectos, las características que se debe tener en un adecuado ejercicio de prevención, de evaluación de riesgos al interior de las organizaciones, entre otros temas ciertamente vinculados con la seguridad. Bruce, thank you for coming. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Can you introduce G4S for our audience, please?
Well, G4S is the largest security company in the world, private security company. We're actually the second largest employer in the world. We employ 620,000 people in 120 countries.
That's amazing.
It's an incredibly large, diverse presence. We have, again, more presence in more places around the world than anyone else. So it's a challenging company, but a good company when you talk particularly global kinds of businesses.
Mm-hmm. And which are the areas that you work in the scope of security?
Well, my primary area is security risk and helping G4S to understand how to determine the security risk. We tend to misuse that term, I believe, in our profession sometimes. And you'll hear people say, oh, it's high risk in XYZ country. Well, not necessarily. The way risk is determined is we look at the threats, and there are diverse threats, and they may change from country or city or industry or business sector. The threats. Then we all have some vulnerabilities, some areas where we're not as strong against a threat. And then the last area is the criticality, the consequence. What does your business do? What's the most critical part of the business? Rather than try and protect everything all of the time from everything, try and figure out what are the most significant and likely to occur threats. Very holistically. What are our vulnerabilities, and can we close some of those and then lower the risk? And what's the most critical? Are we protecting the most critical resources we have, or are we trying to protect everything and not putting enough emphasis on something that could bring the business down or cause major problems?
I can imagine the sources of these threats. Those are coming from external world and internally, right?
And that's an interesting comment. You are exactly right. Unfortunately, a lot of us like to focus on the external threats, and they're there.
Absolutely.
But around the world and around the business world, interestingly enough, 70% of the threats the average business faces are internal. Or at least linked to an internal. There may be collusion from external and
internal. Can you list them? Which are the most common threats at the internal of the organization?
Well, I think it varies very much from business to business and location. But the internal issues are probably things that have to do with integrity and dishonesty.
Okay.
So you may have business espionage, which I've written a book about. Every business faces internal theft of their information or processes. You may have money issues, especially if you're involved in letting contracts, so kickbacks under the table or inflated contracts or going to my friend. And then just internal theft.
Yeah,
people are stealing.
And this is common in every country.
Yes. Some more than others in certain areas. But it happens everywhere around the world. Again, I've worked in 68 countries.
So you have seen
So
everything.
I have seen them all around the world. So I have seen a lot.
It's the same. Europe, the States, Latin America, Asia, Africa.
Exactly.
whatever.
And if you read my book on business espionage, for example, you'll see the globe laid out in the 12 or 15 most serious threat countries where threats emanate from, and then the victims are different countries where there's more of it, but it occurs in all of them.
Around the internal domain, which are the most important recommendations you can give to our business community?
Well, what we find is that a lot of us would like to have some kind of an electronic or computer, something that fixes everything. Give me a device, I don't care, I know it's going to cost me, just give me something that fixes all my problems.
This is a common expectation.
A common request and
Okay.
expectation. Unfortunately, what I have to tell all of the people who have this expectation, even though there will be salespeople for an individual item saying, put in the video surveillance system, put in an alarm system, hire some security guards, everything will be fixed. No. The biggest thing to understand about all of our businesses is people are involved. And the biggest vulnerabilities center around people. So those pieces of equipment, those are all great tools to help. But the bottom line is this is a people-oriented problem and a people-oriented solution. So I'd love to be able to say I have a magic wand that can fix. It doesn't exist. And if anybody tells you they have that, you better be pretty skeptical.
What about digital threats?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's
Significant.
a significant one, and how can you assess all the potential fronts to protect?
Well, the most important thing is, again, to make it risk-based. I like to link the digital issues to a famous bank robber in the United States in the 1930s who, when he was arrested, they asked him, why you rob banks? And he said, that's a stupid question. That's where the money is.
Yes.
Why do we go have digital threats? That's a stupid question because that's where the information is that is of value that we want to steal on people or businesses. So we know the information that is there. Now again, doing a risk assessment, what you find is you have to protect yourself from the hackers and the outside, but guess what? The biggest problem over and over again is the inside. Mm-hmm. And that's a different way of dealing with it. So just make sure your solutions, which will include things like strong passwords and backups, but make sure that also looks at the inside, your internal, who have legitimate access to the information in the computer systems, but maybe working with a hacker, they can steal more sensitive information that they technically should not have access to because they've already got a window, a hand in. The other thing, and it kind of goes back to your earlier question about what are the solutions, it's very much oriented to people. So education and awareness and training so people understand what are the threats, that the main threats are internal, to watch for them, to report and share so we can, when people
like
start
creating
understanding.
a protocol to control internally what's going on.
Yeah. So if someone never wants to take vacation, why?
Sounds fair. Huh?
What you find is that sometimes, and it doesn't mean, oh, he doesn't want to take or she doesn't want to take vacation, so they're a criminal. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that's a warning sign that you say, maybe they don't want someone else to be doing their work and have access and say, well, this shouldn't be. So they want to always be in, you want to watch for the people who don't want to share anything, again, doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong, but it's a warning sign. You should look closely.
Absolutely. And externally, which are the most important threats?
Well, no question about it. The most important threats will be twofold. One, the lives of people. I have not found a company or a nation that doesn't care about its people and their lives.
Of course.
So that's very important, of course. The second thing is to understand that information and those kinds of, everyone has sensitive information. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to include that in our overall protection. Again, doing a risk assessment, finding what's the most critical, and asking the difficult questions like my little grandson does. Why? Why?
Of course.
We often find when we keep asking why, people say, well, we've always done it that way. Things have changed. We're in a more digital world. We're constantly evolving. So you're constantly assessing your risk and saying, but this could bring our whole business down. The sad thing is, while we value lives, one person potentially could be injured or killed in a business, and it won't collapse the whole business. It's possible, but it's unlikely. However, if someone steals your formula or process that you've invested in and steals all the research and development that you invested in that,
the business will be
the business collapses.
Absolutely.
And again, I've dealt with hundreds of businesses from small businesses. People say, oh, well, that only happens if you're in the high-tech business world. No, it happens. Bicycle tour companies have told me I went under because of my employees stole my information. Tour companies, portable toilet companies went under because it is across the board. If you have competitors, welcome to the world where you need to protect the inside of your information.
And this happens in every country as well?
Every country.
Okay.
Some more than others, and some countries are more involved as a country, as a government, in trying to steal some of the information. But the bottom line is, especially in the smaller businesses, it's everybody involved. Often your own employees or former employees suddenly take all your information and go away. So
yeah,
understand that threat.
We have a free market here, a black market of information. You can
exactly.
buy every list you want to have in the streets. So it's amazing the vulnerability that you have, the exposure you can have to be stolen.
And you can have your own employees working to help get that information out to get money from the black side of the, or the other thing is you do all the electronic protections possible. I've got encryption, detection, firewalls, passwords, complex passwords changed every 30 days and on and on. That's all oriented from the external. And then someone walks into your office carrying some cases, and social engineers talks the receptionist into letting them into the IT room, steals the information because they have direct access to the servers, and walk out.
Yeah.
All of this protection from the external threat is legitimate and you have to have it, but you also have to train the receptionist on how social engineering works, and nobody goes into that IT server room. But experts will talk their way in.
How can you prevent that?
Training, education, awareness, training, and testing.
Okay.
I am, as you can probably imagine in the profession then, I'm pretty good at social engineering. I could tell you story after story of how I've talked people out of information. And it's incredible to me how easily we give up information. Even when I was in the military, which is how I transferred my military expertise to the private sector, we protected military secrets.
Of course, yeah.
And people understand that. Well, guess what? The same techniques are used by, and in fact, some of the same agencies that are going after military information are going after the private sector. And guess what? The same techniques work to counter that. Our number one method, and it was very successful in the United States Air Force decades ago when I worked in that, was education and awareness and an alert military population, now an alert workforce, that no, wait a minute, this is sounding like the social engineering we got trained on. Let me just do a few more and train them on what they can do to begin to check it out and to notify the right people. Then you've got your best chance of preventing a problem.
Are these part of the services you
Yes,
give?
absolutely.
G4S
Yes.
helps companies do that.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In addition to the traditional service of guards,
Exactly.
right?
From the traditional uniformed security officer of all levels to, and I'm actually in what's called corporate risk services.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And the reason I'm in Peru.
And where the money is.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Wherever there's money, then we have to protect it. So I'm here meeting with my counterparts in Peru, G4S, who have the same areas of expertise. I'm dealing with a colleague who is retired from the Peruvian Air Force.
Oh, really?
And worked in similar things. We are working together to provide support services to businesses here in Peru.
How many employees you have here in Peru?
About 6,000, I believe, is the, but again, a large number are security officers, guards, some would call them.
Very interesting.
But we offer the full range of services, including equipment, but we want to provide those based on the true risks to your unique business and your unique location.
What about the residential side of the business? Do you provide services for protecting houses and
Absolutely.
Private
yes.
families?
Yes. And often they're linked to businesses.
Yeah, normally
So
the owner or
if I
company.
told you who I've done risk assessments on their private residences, it would be names you very much know in the billionaire status arena.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so yes, we do that, but we do that all the way down to smaller company heads. I can remember just a few months ago, I was looking at a smaller company and trying to explain to the families some of the issues they needed to be aware of and looking at their residences and travel patterns and schools for their children and the offices. And they were like, you know, we're not that big a company, Mr. Wimmer. Mm-hmm. We are not a blank, Fortune 10 company.
But always a target, even though
and
the
that
size,
very day,
happened something.
a family was attacked in Washington, D.C. with a smaller company and all tortured and killed. And I was able to say, look at this. This is a smaller company, almost your size. And then they were, okay, maybe we do need to take this seriously.
Yes, unfortunately, we are living not the most secure days of our lives.
Absolutely.
In Peru, as you can see
Exactly.
every day. So which could be the most important recommendation for citizens?
Well, again, I think it boils down to each one of us knowing what things to look for, but paying attention. Especially in this day and age, guess what? This device is the most valuable thing we can have sometimes for security. When I first started out, you had to find a landline and go call to get help. Now we can simply reach in our purse, our pocket, and pull out a device and summon help. The only trouble is...
If you didn't lose it in the event.
Well, and the big trouble is, most of us, instead of being situationally aware, are walking around like this.
Yes, that's true.
And persons can walk right up to you. You're not even paying attention. This is the biggest problem we have in security is this. It's one of the best things. It's one of the worst things.
Yeah.
So it's understanding how to use that device. You don't walk down the streets in Lima with your nose in your mobile device. You're giving up some potential protection. You need to be paying attention to what's going on around you.
Yeah,
as you drive.
Completely true. Even in the car,
Exactly.
people's driving and
They need to be
watching
paying
the
attention.
phone, right?
If you're messing with that mobile device, then your attention span goes down, you're not situationally aware, and you're vulnerable.
Okay. Bruce, time is over,
Yes.
unfortunately. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming,
you.
for sharing with us all your expertise around security. And I'm pretty sure that G4S, working with people like you, will have a lot of success in the world.
I hope so, because it's success at bringing people more security. So
Absolutely.
I like that kind of success.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
How is Lima treating you?
Very good.
Have you tried our food?
Yes.
Do you like it?
Yes.
Which is the most? Ceviche?
Ceviche, yeah. It's unique and very good.
Glad to know. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Bruce Wimmer, director senior de G4S, la empresa de seguridad más grande del mundo, la empresa privada de seguridad más grande del mundo, estuvo con nosotros dándonos algunas pautas a nivel empresarial y personal sobre aspectos a tener en cuenta en materia de seguridad, señores. Nosotros volvemos tras la pausa, así que no se muevan.